Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 84 of the Snapshot. I'm Brendan Patrick, joined always by Marvel Snap phenom Cam Best. Cam, you're weak in Marvel Snap, sir.
Is this not episode 85?
Bro, are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's episode 85.
So the way that
I
works-
only know this. I only know this because episode 84 was the one we did the Q&A on.
Well,
Unless you told me the wrong number last week, in which case, that's on me.
so
right?
the way that, no, you're probably right. So the way that works is when I go to write the notes for this episode, I just copy the most recent one. So it'll be the copy of episode 83, and then I rename it to episode 84. And sometimes I don't double check my work on YouTube.
Sure.
So, yeah, episode 84 /
Welcome to
85.
We're Not Actually Sure What Episode of the Show This Is.
I mean, let's be real. Why would you give a fuck?
I think it gives, pedigree, right? Oh, they've been going for 84 episodes, bro.
I feel like
That's
saying the episode number adds no value, but if you fuck it up, people are like, hey, bro, it's episode 85, actually.
That's true. That's true.
It's like all downside.
I'm people.
All down. It's all downside.
Purely negative EV calculation. My week in Marvel Snap's been pretty good. I'm rank 10 right now. It just sort of happened. I know I came on here a month ago and I was like, I'm gonna stop tryharding for good ranks. And I did, I swear I did. I swear to God I did. But here I am. And things are going pretty okay. I had a pretty rough start to the season, I would say. Some slow climbs, some days where it was like I was lucky to be positive.
Mhm.
And then I had a couple really good days, mostly thanks to a couple of RSM decks, a couple of Wiccan Loki decks, just generally abusing things that are putting my opponents in unfair situations. And that's kind of where I've been at. I think tomorrow, so the day this drops, I'll be experimenting with some more fair stuff. We'll see how that goes. I'm fairly hopeful for Ajax Bounce, is one of the only decks I actually feel good into Loki decks with right now. So we'll see what the future brings. And then, of course, Speed is coming out, who I don't expect to change the tenor of the metagame. Things are going to be roughly the same, I think, but could end up being an important piece in several decks that already exist.
Yeah, and Speed is a 3/3 that says on reveal. It says
Ongoing.
ongoing +1 power for each turn in which you spent all your energy. So, yeah.
It's like a 3/7 to 3/9
Yeah.
in most Marvel Snap decks. And it's just like, I don't know exactly where that leaves it landing. Is this the 3-drop Thena? Where if you don't get it, you're going to be like, God damn it, why didn't I get that while it was there? Or is it more like, I don't know, Gladiator? Where it's like, okay, I don't have Gladiator, I'll play Copycat. I'll play another good 3-drop. Is it more required or more optional? And I think that's going to be the only question.
So we did have to record our last episode a bit early, and I feel like we had everything in there for the week, but there was one thing that happened.
There was one thing we missed, yes.
There was one thing that happened, and that was that leagues came out.
Yeah.
It went really smooth. I was really impressed with the team's ability to
Yeah, it was
execute.
great.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing wrong with them at all.
Yeah, and props to Second Dinner for, just that smooth release. So, yeah, that is sarcasm. That was a shit show. Because why?
I mean, I don't know.
It definitely was a shit
wasn't
show.
that bad.
Even if you don't think it was a shit show personally, it was. I think. I mean, there was huge blowback. People were really pissed.
All right, but hear me out.
Okay.
Everyone got mad. But here's my argument for why it wasn't a shit show.
Okay.
And everyone should actually be thanking the win traders. For the record, I did not win trade. I played one of the 2 days leagues were out, and all my games were on stream. But I know a ton of people who did win trade. Here's why you should be thanking them. The average player got more free stuff because of it.
True. And
everyone who was invested enough to win trade was probably already going to do pretty well in their damn leagues. If you're invested enough to understand this exploit, you're probably already going to do pretty well. And
do you want to explain the exploit for people?
As I understand it, and this is sort of secondhand because again, I didn't do it. Methinks he doth protest too much. The way it works is you go in Proving Grounds, one person would retreat 1 time, the other person would then retreat 6 times, and then the first person would retreat the remainder of the times. And the way this worked is you lose 25 points in a league for a loss, but you gain 50 for a win. So by doing this, you would or you get 100 for a win.
I was
sorry.
Gonna say, I think the number.
So by doing this, you both get 600 points in your league or something like that. Yeah. And so you end up splitting a Proving Grounds match in just getting like a ton of stuff. I got to tell you, the reason I didn't really grind for it, it's like, first of all, I mute everyone anyway. Who cares? But second of all, like, what? I'm gonna waste my time. I'm gonna do this for 3 hours to get a premium mystery variant. Literally worse ROI than getting a job. Go put the fries in the bag, man. Yeah. Like literally put the fries in the bag, man, and go buy that premium mystery variant.
That's true.
Jesus Christ.
That is true. It was bad ROI for your time. So I actually didn't know about this, and as soon as leagues dropped, I was like, wonder if I could exploit this by getting a bot in Proving Grounds. That's what I thought the exploit would be. Which I didn't, but then I queued it back up later, and every single one of my my opponents hit me with a Spider-Man fist bump, and I was like, oh, I know this one. There's some shenanigans going on, so I go to Reddit and I see what's up. Yeah, it was like, I think everybody was fucking doing it in Proving Grounds, which makes sense because that's where the exploit was available. Some people were very angry because they tryharded on like the first day or something like that, and then they're like, oh, all this is for nothing because you can get like 10,000 in like an hour or something like that, like something crazy.
Was that many?
It was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. You think about it, if you're doing a Proving Grounds, you're max win trading if you got plus 600, for sure.
I guess. I got like about 5,000 or so from an entire stream's worth of games. So I can see why that would be appealing.
Yeah. So Second Dinner's fix for this was they gave everybody the emote, the Deadpool emote, and then they gave them blue border. Did they give them anything else?
I don't know, but I feel like everyone on net ended up with more stuff. You also got the rewards from your league. So if you win traded up to your premium mystery variant, again, just put the fries in the bag, man. But congratulations, I suppose. And then everyone else got more stuff. I'm gonna get a Deadpool emote. I do think there was another unforced error here, and it was that they didn't tell people that it wouldn't be part of the rewards at the end of leagues and that they'd have to send it to the inboxes. So then a bunch of people were like, they said we'd get a Deadpool emote, but we didn't get a Deadpool emote. They lied. And it's like, no, they just kind of like assumed you would know that they would send it out later. And I guess that's a dumb assumption to make because, I mean, like there's a saying, I think in politics, where it's like, no one ever went broke underestimating the intelligence of the American public. And I think they need to start underestimating us a little bit more. I'm going to be honest with you.
Well, to flip the script a bit, it does blow my mind that Second Dinner is this incompetent. Like, I understand the issue is like, it's not that big deal, but like, how do they do that? That is like, that's not that far. It's just not that complicated.
I will tell you that after like maybe an hour, one of the people that I know was like, "Hey, we should do this in Proving Grounds."
Bro,
I was like, that seems like too much effort.
Yeah, my first thought was like, go to Proving Grounds, get a bot. That's like a soft exploit, right? Go get a bot in Proving Grounds. But it's crazy that they missed this like arbitrage that you could do. It's just so egregious. Yeah. It's so upfront.
I mean, I think again, it's like you're coming from the right place though, right? Where it's like, we don't want losses. We don't want this to just be cubes.
Yeah.
We don't want this to just be cubes. We want people to feel good about leagues in a way that they don't feel good about ladder. And so it makes perfect sense. All they really had to do was be like, hey, you can't do this in Proving Grounds and Silver.
Or
that's all they really had to do.
Yeah, I guess they would have had to like rework the whole system if they wanted to be not like that, and you'd be able to get them from Proving Grounds.
I actually kind of wonder if people do it in gold, because those are the ones you get free tickets for.
Yeah, I think for sure people would do it in gold. Yeah, for sure. But people would just be able to do it less. That's the thing. It does it. I don't want to harp on it too much because I really don't think that the issue was that big of a deal. Like, yeah, it pissed people off, but they'll get over it. But it does surprise me that they have this. They consistently lack attention to detail, and they consistently kind of fuck things up like this. That absolutely
you don't want to harp on it for 30 minutes and then at the end be like, actually, I thought it was good.
No.
You want to do that? You want to do that again?
Just 5 minutes this time. Just 5 minutes this time. I just wonder if anybody there kind of gets in trouble for this stuff or gets yelled at, because it blows my mind when it's like there's minimal testing that could have gone into this and it would have. Because like if you're a gamer and you want to game that system, first thing you're just like, okay, what's the easiest place to do this? It's fucking Proving Grounds. Like even without the win trading, and then you play Proving Grounds once or twice, you realize like, oh, there's an arbitrage thing going on here. You can just trade back and forth.
Yeah. So one thing about Proving Grounds is it has fairly strict collection level and MMR matchmaking, as far as I can tell. So like when the people that I know were doing this, a bunch of high ranked players, right?
Yeah.
They're only queuing each other.
Yeah.
So it's just like constant. And then it sort of trickled down to the masses. We were joking that it was like this, they say there's no rewards for having a high ladder rank, but actually the rewards are being able to win trade Proving Grounds.
Absolutely. Well, that was the thing that happened, and a lot of people got frustrated about it. But Second Dinner did the old Billy. Who is it? It's not Billy Mays who does slaps the thing on the water tank that's leaking. You know that ad?
Right. The flex tape. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And everybody gets a reward. Okay.
I mean, shout out. I wasn't gonna put an effort to this. I wasn't gonna get that emote. Now I got that emote.
Yeah,
so
neither was I.
Thank you, Win Trader.
Yeah.
Shout out to Proving Grounds.
Neither was I. I do think that. So let's imagine a world where leagues didn't come out like this, or let's just imagine the future world with leagues. Do you think that they're a cool system?
No, but they're not for me, right? Like I am one of 50 people on Earth who finds current Marvel Snap top ladder fulfilling.
Yes, so I actually think they're for me.
They're not for me.
They're like specifically for me.
Yeah.
So the people that are infinite rank that don't want to compete in top 50 and
exactly
don't find enjoyment from going from 1,700. So yeah, I found it to be. I did get a bit more dopamine. I found when I was playing my my games on day one, by the way, because you couldn't enjoy it after day two. So I did find I was getting a little bit more dopamine, and I thought it was a cool system. So I actually kind of liked it.
I like how you start with you did the same thing where you start with this sucks, I hate it, rage bait. Then I actually did kind of like it.
I think all of my critiques are very valid. So the thing is that it's nuanced. You don't have to hate something or love it, but I
like how the last one was I just it was pointed out to me that you did a 30-minute rant on how greedy they are in the mode where they gave away the best card in the game for free.
Well, see, that's the thing is people take what I say and they sum it up. I think it's I was it wasn't how greedy they were, it's how manipulative they were. The greed is a different story, because then you have this oh, it's a free card, and it's okay, maybe. I mean, yes, I guess so. I mean,
I feel like on the whole, Deadpool's Diner was the most free to play friendly thing they have literally ever done.
Yeah, I could see that. But maybe that's a bit of like a Stockholm kind of syndrome.
It's a low bar,
just getting destroyed consistently.
Sure.
With four banging in the fucking keys.
Are we four banging? Did you four bang again?
No, bro.
Not four banging?
I wouldn't have showed up today if I'd four banged in the keys on Wicon. No, sir.
Oh man, I two banged Wiccan.
I'm gonna pass this one, I think, but I'll ask you your thoughts on him specifically. Let's get into the OTA first. So they did decide to buff Lady Deathstrike because it was a very nice bundle going to the store. Just kidding, but there is a tinfoil hat subgroup that believes.
I don't even think that's like tinfoil hat.
You just think it's fucking legit. It was.
Okay. They've said that if they have here's the thing that bothers me about this tinfoil hat thing, is that it feels like there's no actual time they're allowed to buff something without people getting mad at it.
Yes.
There's zero times where someone won't be like, this is a conspiracy.
Okay.
If they buffed it after this, everyone would be like, why the fuck didn't you buff it while it was on sale? And if they buffed everyone would be so mad no matter when this happened.
The order of operations actually matters, but it can never be known. So did they have the bundle created and then they're like, hey, we're gonna buff Lady Deathstrike. Should we throw this? Should we help this bundle we have in the backlog? Should we throw it in? Or were they like, hey, development team, we have this sick fucking Lady Deathstrike bundle. Why don't you throw another point on there? So it matters, but
I don't know. I don't really think either of those is all that bad. Did Lady Deathstrike need a buff? Yeah. Did she get a buff? Yeah. Are we mad about this for some reason? Not really. I don't know. Like people are proposing it like it's a conspiracy to like do something bad, but it's like I don't really think buffing a card is bad ever. Like, I find it very hard to believe that I'm supposed to be like, they only buffed Lady Deathstrike to sell the bundle. And it's like, I mean, they did the good thing. They buffed the card. They made it a better card. So why are we mad about that?
What if they came out and they're like, hey, we are going to release cards powerful, then we're going to nerf them 2 to 3 weeks after, or month, maybe 2 months after, and we're going to nerf them. And then we're going to buff cards periodically as we put bundles in for you to be able to get them, whereas they show back up in the spotlight cache. What if they just came out and they said, like, hey, we're going to release cards powerful, so you buy them. Then we're going to nerf them, so you keep buying them. And then we're going to buff old cards as they rotate into the shop, and they also rotate into the potentially the spotlight caches.
People want at least one of those things. They want it to be like buff cards instead of when we can't buy them, when we can buy them, right? People get so mad when they buff a card that you can't buy. This was the Hydra Bob thing. This was the US Agent thing. Whenever they buff a card, the Gladiator thing. Whenever they buff a card that you can't buy, people are like, why the fuck would you ever do this? And then they buff a card that you explicitly can buy, and everyone's like, fucking the truth is out there. Yeah. X-Files theme.
What if they just said that? What if they just came out? Would you be angry?
I would doubt that it is true.
Personally. Okay, like let's say Ben Brode is like, hey, you know, this sincerity, this is what we're doing. Would you, Cam Best?
I would be angry, yeah.
I don't think I would. I wouldn't be angry.
I would be angry if they were explicitly releasing things strong with the explicit plan of nerfing them down later. Yeah, that would be bullshit.
Yeah. I just, at this point, I don't know if I would actually, I would talk about it on the podcast and I'd be like, hey, that's ridiculous. But me personally, would it irritate me? Probably not.
That's where I'm at. Also, like, people, also, like, I feel like people think that's the state of affairs. In the last 7 months, name 4 cards that have come out and have been nerfed.
Name 4 cards that have come out.
4 cards.
And have been nerfed.
Yes.
Athena?
Uh-huh.
Cassandra Nova?
Uh-huh.
Arsham?
Uh-huh.
Bro, I'm just... Nocturne?
Uh-huh.
I'm just going up the fucking OTA.
Okay, sorry. Before this last patch... This last patch fucked my...
There's 4 in the OTA.
This last patch actually fucked my argument. Because they did just finally get around to nerfing all that shit. But, like, before that, there was just nothing. It was, like, Red Hulk twice and nothing.
I'm looking at a fucking JPEG.
Looking at the fucking... I'm still owned.
I'm like, so is there a catch in this? I'm like, dude, I actually...
No,
I thought you were setting up a trap. I was like, what?
No. I should have leaned into it. But, like... All of those, I actually kind of am setting up a trap, but like all of those nerfs just happened. Just now. You're talking like 3-4 weeks later. All of those nerfs just happened now. Not a single card that they have released has been nerfed in less than a month, I want to say.
I'm not the guy to ask, to be fair.
I do think it's like less than a month, right? They are clearly aiming high on new cards, and sometimes that means you miss high, but also sometimes that means you miss low, a la Hydra Bob, right? Yeah. Like, or Gilgamesh. Like, having to buff a season pass card is like worst case scenario, and they had to do that. Like, sometimes you miss low as well as missing high, but everyone acts like they're like always releasing cards that are too strong and then nerfing them down, and it's like, I don't really think that's true. Athena came out like, what, 3 months ago? 2 months ago? Nocturne's been out for forever. White Widow's been out for forever, right? And they're only getting toned down now when it's been months of it becoming clear that they're just like a little bit better than everything else. And I think actually maybe Cassandra Nova might be the fastest they've done.
Yeah, Cassandra Nova was quick. Let's just hop into that OTA because I do think the Cassandra Nova one was it was interesting for sure. So
they hit that shit fast.
Yeah, I mean it went from a 3-1 to a 3-0. I saw a lot of critiques on Twitter. I was like, that was just unnecessary. Like, what does that represent? That -1.
It represents being better against RSM and worse against other decks.
Yeah. So
it was previously like like if you imagine Cassandra Nova like versus RSM versus other decks, you weight these by the percentage of things that you see, and then that's how good Cassandra Nova is, right? it changes them a little bit. Now it's better versus RSM and worse versus other decks, and then you weight it by the percentage of things you see. And that's, yeah, I think, with RSM getting extra cards, it ends up being better in the matchup that it's good for, and worse in general spots, which I think is fine when you think of other tech cards at that spot being actually pretty small, and Cassandra being like a 3/6.
Yeah, Cassandra Nova being as powerful as she was into non-RSM decks was interesting. It just felt like kind of a free roll to absolutely toast these RSM decks sometimes. So RSM did change as well. So RSM now adds 15 cards into your deck. I saw someone actually did the math on this and how inconsistent your deck it makes your deck, and they said this is not enough. But
I saw that thread too, but like they were talking about something like very specific, which was exactly how much does it offset the ability of the deck to spend the extra energy that it gets, right? And so that is offset mostly by like being forced to play off curve or generating cards that don't make perfect sense for what you're doing right now. It is not a measure of how strong the cards you're playing are. And so ultimately what I took from that thread, which was a good graph, I do not remember the name of the person who made it on Twitter, but I enjoyed the graph, but ultimately it did sort of feel like it said something a bit tautological, which is...
Tautological. Hit us with the definition.
The definition of a tautology is a tautology. No, I'm fucking with you. Tautological means like it is sort of self-evident in a way that ultimately what that graph was saying was like, it's like saying blue is blue. RSM spends more mana than other decks. Like, yeah, I know. That's what's on the card. Like it, and measuring it in terms of how efficiently it spends that mana or how able it is to spend its mana flattens everything down in such a way that it seems very difficult to perceive RSM as balanced on that chart with any number of cards. Because what ends up happening is, as I understand, again, not a stats guy. I have like a degree in econ, which is like half stats, half lies. But the takeaway I got from that was that it sort of flattened the view of it. Like, yeah, RSM is strong because it spends more energy than other decks. Adding cards to the deck, the goal of that is not to prevent it from spending that energy. The goal of that is to make the energy less efficient in terms of the numbers it puts on the board, because you're playing random cards instead of the cards you put in your deck, which are generally better. And so what that graph doesn't account for is the delta between playing a deck that actually makes sense and playing a bunch of random crap. Do I think RSM is still good? Yes. But I don't think it's necessarily because of what that graph showed, which to me was sort of like nothing that reading the card doesn't tell you. RSM gets +1 energy every turn of the game. If you can spend that even half reasonably, you're going to be able to be ahead. That's the card. And I think there are a lot of people who, when they see a card like RSM or a card like Loki, which we'll get to, the immediate proposal is to make the card not the card. Like, actually, the problem with RSM is that it gets +1 energy. And it's like, dude, yeah, I can read the card. Like, I know what it says. And the job of the design team is to make the downside balanced enough that the upside is not as egregiously overpowered. And I think the more cards they add to the deck, 18 might do it, 21 might do it, I don't know, the more clear that will become, because the deck is notably worse. I still am doing very well with it because it's still very strong and it's the kind of deck I like to play, and I think it's still pretty good. But I wouldn't be shocked if it wasn't like a major statistical outlier at this point.
Well, that makes sense. In other nerfs, we have Athena moving from a 2-1 to a 2-0. We had a lot of little powers coming off. We had Nocturne. I'm just gonna name the other one. We had Nocturne go from a 3-5 to a 3-4, which I think is that I don't know why that. Maybe you could explain why the power knock on Nocturne hurts.
I mean,
me more
she's just
than
kind of
Athena.
the best 3.
Exactly, and she's just like not. Is she just not now? Like
yeah. It was already kind of competitive between her and Copycat, and now it's just not.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think about Athena?
The funniest reaction to this was, like, after looking at this, I was like, I know exactly what's going to happen. A bunch of people are going to be like, this is a buff because it can't be shanged, and then the stats on this card are going to drop like a freaking rock.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. Like, guys, it is never, ever
Has it
a
ever
buff
been that scaling
to
threat
lose
can't
a
be hit by
power.
Shang? Yeah.
It's
Scaling
never
threat
a
can't
buff.
be hit by Shang. Buff.
It's never a buff. It is always a nerf. It is always a nerf because the number of games in which that would have mattered is way less than the number of games in which you have -1 power now, which is all of the games. Every single game, you now have 1 less power.
Yeah, dude, we need a section where we just screenshot things on Twitter periodically through the week, and then we just that's all this fucking podcast is. Like, I saw this cook take.
I saw this on Twitter, yeah.
Just look at all it is.
Well, I mean, where else do you interact with the community? Like, when I say this, it's not always on Twitter. It's like my comments on YouTube or in Twitch chat. Yeah. It's like a fairly pervasive thought that people are proposing. Like, oh, this card gets better because it can't be shanged. It has never happened, and I don't think it's happening now.
All right. Well, we had Mind Stone move from a 2/1 to a 1/1. Pretty significant buff there for Mr. Thanos.
Sort of. So the thing with Thanos is having Quicksilver, like, one of the things Wiccan taught us is playing Quicksilver really sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And Thanos is worse than Quicksilver because it's a 6/10. At least you can play Quicksilver on turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
At least there's some value in that. Thanos is just a dead card. A card that you cannot play until the final turn of the game, or maybe turn 5 if you get the Greenstone. And it's in a deck that needs to roll downhill. The ideal Thanos draw is stones all over the board on the first 3 turns of the game. Big guy, big guy, big guy. That's what Thanos wants to do. And not only is he total ass, he's also the opposite of what his deck wants to be. And I don't know how to fix that.
All right. I think the next biggest one for me was this Man-Thing change. Man-Thing went from a 4/5 to a 4/7.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering about this one because it's like, I think that's first of all, huge number of stats on this guy.
Yeah.
But second of all, like, could you have just buffed it to -3? I feel like it's worse to make it -3.
Yeah,
if it was just 4/5 -3, it's a worse card, but also it feels more punishing when it hits. And I feel like 4/7 is like the smarter of the two if you had to choose it.
I think it gives it a better floor for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the -3, even with -2, it kind of feels like a location. It's like, oh, you can't play 1, 2, or 3 costs here, but obviously you get punished for already developing them. How significant do you think this Lady Deathstrike buff is? And I guess we can, if you want to have an honorable mention on either Sandman or Angel, feel free. Both of which were minorly changed. Sandman 5/7 to 5/6.
The only thing that's really hurting Sandman right now is not the nerf, but the vast prevalence of Loki.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty hard to be a Sandman deck when you do that. But the change to Lady Deathstrike, it's like a card that I want to play in Arishem now for sure, but I can't fit in because my 6s are higher impact.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the ways in which Arishem has been changed by the balance patch is your cards need to matter more. The cards you put in the deck are more important. There's no room for fucking around with Cables and Valentinas. You can't do that shit anymore. You can't do it. What you can do is play more big guys, Mockingbird, Quinjet, high impact cards. And when you do that, you end up not only being a better Arishem deck, but being a better Loki deck. Because then after you Loki, your hand is full of big, dumb dorks that you can dump on the board alongside your Loki cards.
Yeah. We had an Angel 1/2 to 2/3.
Woo! When I said they needed to help destroy, this is not what I meant.
Yeah. It's a weird one. It was a weird one for sure. We had a new card released this week. Wiccan 4/7 on reveal if you spent all your energy on previous turns, +2 max energy.
I gotta tell you, going like 1/2 Loki Wiccan honestly feels broken. And yes, a lot of that is Loki, but like 1/2 Loki Wiccan is just like you're just Arishem at that point, except you get to play a real deck.
Yeah.
You're RSM, except you're playing 12 cards.
Pretty sure this is like, I was very surprised. You were tweeting about this card. You're like, I don't know what it is, but I've had like a higher win rate than I ever had with this.
Yeah, that deck I think is outdated now. It's been, things have been moving, I think, fairly fast. But like, there's that one, Loki Wiccan and Pixie Wiccan, which it's actually nuts. Like, I had someone in my comments speculate that like I was only posting these decks because those were the cards in the cache. I'm bought out by Big Second Dinner, and it's like, no, dude. I actually think they just kind of nailed this cache. Those are actually the cards that it goes with. Like, it is a backup plan in. See, like, okay, there are a couple types of mid-range decks, right? And like the basic all good cards mid-range deck, staple of Marvel Snap. But there's a second kind of mid-range deck where it staples a mid-range strategy to just like some cards that let you cheat, right? Wong is a good example of this. The Nomura decks staple a mid-range strategy to just over-the-top combo. Pixie, Loki, that's what these decks are. And they are... Wiccan is the backup version of what those cards are in those decks. Not Wong, but like Pixie and Loki. It is the backup, let's do something stupid and go over the top in those lists. And I gotta tell you, man, like playing a 3/5 into a 4/7 and both of them being like really insane energy cheat cards is like, that feels so unfair. Like, I'm playing these incredibly premium stats and getting incredibly beneficial effects.
I guess if there was ever a week to be 4-banging in the keys, it would be this week.
This is a good 4-bang week if you are someone who does not have these 3 cards. That said, I think we have to talk about it. Like, Loki's actually fucked and should definitely get nerfed.
Okay, yes.
Like,
go.
Like,
take it away.
This card is the best thing to do in RSM, and then also probably the best thing to do outside of RSM. No reason for it to be a 3/5 whatsoever. No reason for it to draw the card on the first turn. 3/5 draw a card, insane anyway. Draw a good card and also discount the rest of your deck. What are we doing here? This guy rocks. Like, it's a fun design. It's way cooler than old Loki, way more exciting than old Loki. But right now, he is such good rate that you just kind of play him in whatever. I've got Thena Loki, I've got Bounce Loki, I've got RSM Loki. It's all soup. And so, take some points off him, take the draw off him, add some energy to him. I don't care what it is, but it probably has to happen.
Good to know. All right, let's hop into our Bend and Snap sections, our listener question section. Rewind. If you want to get your question read out on next week's podcast, shoot us a comment on YouTube. We'll get it queued up. First one's from Jaron. They say, this is my favorite recorded early and posted late podcast.
Yeah, mine too, buddy.
You know, if I didn't know better, I think he was talking about me.
I might, in fact, yeah. I was like, we recorded early. It's going to be, there's no way we'll release on a Tuesday. And then we did.
Yeah.
There's no way. Surely.
First week in 85 weeks.
Oh, yeah. We've never released on a Tuesday.
Well, it's the first week in 85 weeks where I've had follow-ups from Cam on Monday and Tuesday. Like, hey,
yeah.
Where's the pod at?
People were asking me, bro. Because he didn't tell me we weren't releasing on Monday.
Cooking it up.
I learned that we weren't releasing it on Monday from my audience.
Yeah.
They were like, where's the snapshot?
Next one's from Richie. Say, my favorite 4-banging in the keys podcast. That was so funny. People, I mean, that is like, I think that is it's meme level to this is my favorite X podcast. It's weird getting them together, but
you think people like 4-banging in the keys?
Our comment section was littered with 4-banging in the keys.
It's unfortunately a little bit more common than it should be.
Yeah, and it just sounds like weirdly Floridian. So I don't know, people.
Yeah, it is absolutely, like, I can imagine it like cartoon palm tree and sunset for banging in the keys on a t-shirt.
Yes, dude, for sure. I could see it on the back of like a button down, like a loose button down. You would open up and you'd be on a jet ski. It'd be flowing behind you.
You're getting prints on you're putting words on a loose button down. The fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, I
feel
mean,
like
I'm
that,
just
that can't be right.
that's
That can't be
the
right.
inner capitalist. I'll put it on anything, you know.
That can't be
Just
right.
send the
That
money,
cannot.
wire it to my bank account. Next one is from Mia. Having developed bots for games before, making bots that can beat every player without cheating or using machine learning is easy. The hard part is making bots that make human feeling mistakes, and are cheap to run.
Yeah, I don't think they have managed to make bots that make human feeling mistakes yet. But
No.
then again, every so often I will get like there will be people. I guess again, like I have so much experience with bots that I just like I always know. And like there'll be people who be like, "Why did this idiot make this play?" And it's like the world's most obvious bot.
I love that. That was like
It's
the early days of Marvel Snap, a Reddit thread where someone was like, "Look at this dumbass."
Look at this dumb piece of shit.
that was funny.
Look at this idiot named Captain Marvel.
Fucking Kevin's dumbass. Just God damn, those were good days.
Why didn't Captain Marvel move?
Oh, yeah. Well, what's funny too is that I think that at the very least they should update the decks more often, or just have a way of it dynamically updating to, I guess more playable decks. But
well, I mean, have you seen the auto builder?
Yeah.
God help them if they try to dynamically update.
Why does everything? Well, okay. What about Marvel Snap that is not the gameplay isn't subpar? The art is above.
The balance team, the split stuff.
The balance team, yeah, the balance team.
The splits. I think
are okay.
I think there are like some mild server issues, but they're never like that bad. Like,
sure,
I wouldn't call uptime and patches subpar. I think being able to do OTAs is like well above industry standard.
Yeah, it's hard to appreciate that one due to just ignorance of how challenging that might actually be.
I know that other games don't have that. That's what I know. And so I would say there are several areas where they are well above industry standard. Many, I would imagine. Although some of them might not be great ones, like ability to monetize properly.
Ability to drive your caring and loving audience into poverty. Take food off their table.
The caring and loving audience is such a manipulative way to put it.
The caring and loving audience goes to Reddit.
The caring and loving audience of like Starbucks. Shut up.
Caring and loving audience that just endlessly yells and just so angry all the time.
The caring and loving audience of guys that complain online all the time.
Maybe an intrusive thought, but that kind of reminds me of like just like your standard obituary starting line is like they love to laugh, and it's like, what?
I've never heard that in my life.
Dude, that is like the standard. Like I don't know. I think it's been made fun of in comedies. That's why it's like I don't read a lot of obituaries myself, but it's just
you're just scrolling through the obits looking for true crime podcasts.
It's like a weird thing to say. Everybody loves to laugh, and it's like put it on like the biggest buttholes or just meanest person's fucking tombstone. It's like what? But I feel like I was doing the same thing when I was like the caring and loving audience of Marvel Snap, but they're just a bunch of demons. Like,
the caring and loving Marvel Snap community.
All right, next one's from Sargent. Fun fact: the day you quit making parlays is the day the parlay you would have made hits.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Everyone stops gambling just before they were definitely totally about to win. That's definitely not a fallacy. The next one will hit, I promise.
Did you, I don't know if you gamble on UFC, but did you gamble on, or like...
Nope.
Do you gamble on... Okay, don't gamble. Yeah, me neither.
I don't gamble.
Yeah, me neither. No, I actually don't. But I am pretty, sorry. We've been doing too much Marvel Snap for too many weeks in a row.
Sure.
So quickly, and this is like going to be 30 seconds, but...
Are you about to get mad that a minus 400 favorite lost? Did your parlay get busted on a minus 400
No. I actually don't sports gamble, but I do think that Dracus Duplessis is maybe the there's just something about the style.
Good fighter I've ever seen. He spends the entire fight gassed. He walks around. His knees look like Kenny the Jet Smith's knees. Like, they are pointed inwards the entire time. His legs are pointed outwards. He walks around like Daffy Duck, and yet he keeps fucking doing this.
He's like one of those people that if you just had like the quantitative stats on a fighter, you'd be like, fuck, draft this guy. But if you see him fight, you're like, this guy, you're like, he looks like he's getting lucky. You're like, what?
He passes the eye test so hard until you see 2 seconds of him actually fight, and you're just like, what is this clumsy idiot doing?
Exactly. What's funny is like I would also specify that it is actually only when you see him fight. Not you see him walking around, like he looks fine. He looks normal. He might be a little top heavy. Might be a little top heavy, but
a little bit like a Dorito.
Yeah, a little bit like a Dorito, but he looks like he could fuck someone up. And then you see him fight, and you're just like, wow, this guy's terrible. And then he just beats everyone. Like what?
Yeah, like Izzy was, as far as I could tell through watching it, winning that fight.
Yeah.
And then just Dricus hit the fucking button that says he wins, and then he won.
Yeah, I don't want to drag it out too much, but Izzy did point at the ground to stand and trade in the pocket.
I thought he was saying that he tripped.
Well, whatever it was secret.
It didn't
code.
go well.
It was secret code for please submit me immediately. Like what the fuck?
It was code for I'm bored, I'm done, I'm washed. Man, poor Izzy, because he actually is kind of washed. He hasn't been the same since the Alex fight, and like yeah, he won the second one, but it's like, here's my thing. Since the Strickland fight, in the back of my head, I've been thinking I think his chin might be gone. Because getting chinned the way he did in round 1 by fucking Sean Strickland of all people, like, let's be real. And watching him fight Dracus, it was like, not only was he not getting out the way he used to be able to, like he's just a hair, like he would engage in these things and then get tagged on the way out. And that was never happening.
That was the opposite.
And now he's getting tagged on the way out and it's chinning him. And it's like, oh man, this could get bad real quick, because like everything else is still there. Like he still has most of the rest of the arsenal, but it's like that's really bad when you're someone who has avoided contact as well as he has, as long as he has.
That's what he gets for talking shit about Alex Ferreira, and then he comes in.
Wait, say his last name again. Say his Ferreira.
Yeah,
I feel like when you said it, you were like,
you can't say Ferreira.
That is.
You know, it's
yeah. Parada. I mean, I think most people go like, I think like the Joe Rogans of the world are like Parada.
Parader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people probably don't know what I'm referring to. Basically, the reigning champion in the UFC at a certain weight class had, was looking very dominant, then decided to talk shit about the one dude to beat him in his amateur career, and that guy came to the UFC and then whooped his ass. And is now the most dominant fighter I think we've you can't say ever seen, but you
can't say ever seen because he's definitely up there, but it's also like, how the fuck did Izzy ever beat that? That's so insane. Like, this is a guy who's dominating people 20 pounds up in weight.
To be fair, before we saw him fight, when we saw the first Israel Adesanya fight with Alex, it was like, how did Izzy lose to that guy? At least I thought that, because I thought.
No, I think because like when I was watching Izzy and Dracus, it was like, oh, I get it. This is why he lost to Alex, because Dracus had to like rush to get in. He couldn't pressure forward in a sort of methodical way because Izzy was longer and quicker. But Alex is so big. Alex is so big that like Izzy doesn't have the reach advantage he has against everyone else. And so where Dracus has to like do that weird thing where he just like literally runs at you head forward and just like sends 2 punches to the dome, Alex didn't have to do that. He could just walk forward.
Yeah.
And that like when you look at it, you're just like, oh my God, Alex is like the worst possible matchup for a guy like Izzy. And then you're like, oh my God, how did he beat that guy? Like, what the hell? Not only is he like the best fighter in the UFC right now, he's also the worst possible matchup for an evasive kickboxer like Israel Adesanya. Right. And Izzy won anyway, which is like, as far as I can tell, that might be the best fight I've ever seen, and it only gets better in retrospect. It's insane.
I'm ending this 30-second segment after this statement, but I will say that Alex is the worst matchup for anybody in the UFC that is not a world-class wrestler.
Yeah. But it's like, again, like this is a guy who is just a pure striker, a pure kickboxer who leverages a length advantage against a guy who is bigger than him, stronger than him, longer than him, and has knockout power. And it's like, I don't understand how you won that fight. I have no idea. That feels like 1 in a million.
Yeah. All right. I'm taking for all of you listeners. I'm taking a note. Because I'm gonna timestamp the UFC talk this time. People always get so tilted. Some people are like, "Fuck yes, love it. I want to hear about anything except Marvel Snap." The other people are like, "I just sat through 5 minutes of UFC talk. What the fuck? Where am I?" Next one's from Caretix. They say, Ben, a Snap question. With nearly all recent cards coming out of Series 5, do you think it would be feasible / make sense for Second Dinner to seed Series 4 cards back into the collection track and remove them from spotlights to allow cards to rotate more frequently through? I'm not sure how much revenue that could potentially lose them, thus removing its feasibility monetarily, but I could see it reducing the anger players have towards cards only being released at Series 5. Helps people see cards again in spotlights in a more timely manner. Also, I have all but 2 of them, so it doesn't really affect me too much directly.
I would want that to happen, but again, it's like, I'm pretty sure the reason those cards remain in Series 4 is so they can be in spotlight caches without giving everything away in a certain time period, right? Like, I think they, like, very specifically don't want it to be the kind of thing where a new player gets to spotlight caches and every time they 4-bang, they get a bunch of shit they don't already have, right? Like, the system, I don't know if people are aware of this, but it's set up to be more generous at the start and less generous at the end. And in order to facilitate that, they have to have some amount of just, like, Series 4 garbage in there, probably.
Agreed. Next one's from B Money. They say, hey, Cam and Brennan, a year ago on the podcast, you talked about potential Snap clones from other studios. Have you noticed any?
There's like a Chinese one.
Really?
Yeah. There was like a Chinese one that's like, I think it's like Chinese mythology themed, and like the cards are exactly cards from Snap, but just with like different themings. Damn. And I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah, I thought we would see more. Maybe there's like a lot more that goes into that. Like I don't know if it's copyrighted or like legal stuff comes into it, but I was surprised to not see like Hearthstone do like a mode. Because Hearthstone's
Marvel
like
Snap
tons of modes.
I learned recently that Marvel Snap is one of like 8, and this is from a guy on Twitter, Ryan Rigney. One of 8 successful free-to-play live service games released by a Western developer in the last 5 years.
Interesting.
How messed up is that?
Free-to-play live service game,
Western developer, last 5 years.
Last 5 years.
Maybe 7, depending. Like, people act.
What about
like
Legends of Runeterra?
People act like Marvel Snap is like some sort of failure or something, and I think like when you look at it by any objective metric, it's like a 1 in a million success for a studio on their first game of this size to have one of those games. This is like a once in a year thing for a Western dev.
All right, next one.
And the rest of them are like Monopoly Go. Not exactly like, the greatest games of all time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, lives. Interesting. Why am I even racking my brain? I got nothing in there. I'm trying to think about other games. I'm like, there's no catalog to go through. All right, next one's from Electric. They say, I do find it impressive how many podcasts by already full-time YouTubers die for no reason. We talked a little bit about content on the last podcast, and there was a lot of comments about that, but I left most of them out.
Wow.
This is the one in particular. Well, we're spending 10 minutes on the UFC. We ain't got time for that shit.
Damn.
But this one I did pick this one out because this one is not the nicest thing to say, but it is interesting because it does happen a lot. I feel like a lot of YouTuber podcasts that are by full-time YouTubers, they do just tend to kind of die out for some reason, which is interesting to me. I wonder if you had any insight on that. Coming from a full-time YouTuber who has podcasts that are not dead.
I have absolutely no insight on that. Why would I have any insight on that?
Because you're a full-time YouTuber.
Yeah, but like, I'm a podcaster because you're my co-host.
Nope. Ben is or 8 Cubes.
Doesn't even go on podcast platforms. It's just a YouTube show.
Counts.
Does not count. I think in order to be a podcast, you have to be a podcast. I'm only a podcaster because of you. I Value this platform greatly, but I wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun to get on here and bullshit about stuff with you. So it's not. I have a video.
You mean 50 minutes of Marvel Snap tactical analysis
Right. Yes.
week,
I mean an hour and a half of the most in-depth Marvel Snap content you would ever see. Yes. That's why I do this. It's definitely not a break from doing that on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, if I didn't know better, I would think that was directed at me. Next one's from Sergio.
I'm glad you know better.
Next one's from Sergio. Hey guys, do you think there's a reason why SD haven't designed any zero-cost cards? The design space just too small, or what?
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty small to me.
It's small, but we have seen. It is interesting to see zero.
You think it's like? Here's the thing. It's like you could make a zero-cost card, but that's like the kind of thing where it's like if you do it once, you probably can't ever do it again. So it's like, let's say they released Hydra Bob at 0-3.
Okay.
Would that be good?
That I was going to ask you, what power does a zero cost card have to for it to be good? Because
would that be, I think that would be good. I think that would be like kind of busted.
Takes up a board space too. It takes up a
board space and a space in your deck. So
what is the value that a zero cost?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, surely free.
It might be.
Yeah. 0-2.
It's like, I think right now the best thing to do with the zero cost card is like chuck it into a lockjaw. That seems like the best thing to do in a zero cost card.
Wait, how much does Yellow Jacket cost?
0.
Okay. They should say designed any more zero cost cards. Wasp, Yellow Jacket. Why did I brain fart on those cards existing?
Yeah.
But both of those cards are not good on their own.
But yeah.
They're not. So 0-1 is not good enough.
Yeah, 0-1's not good enough. 0-2 is not good enough. I would guess that a 0-3 would be playable some of the time. Because people play Wasp in like Patriot decks, right? But like a lot of that is like Dazzler related. But yeah, I think you definitely play 0-3 vanilla, but like 0-3 ability that maybe like 0-3 martyr. Probably not, right?
Wait, so you think 0-3 vanilla auto slot in?
I don't know if it's an auto slot in, but you think about it a decent amount of the time.
I'll think about it. 0-4 auto slot in?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, if you want to get your question right on next week's podcast, shoot us a comment on YouTube. KM, it's Sunday. You know what that means? That means we're on at KM Best MS Twitter, and we're looking at the best decks. Is there any deck in particular that you want to talk about?
Actually, it's Monday.
It's not. Wait, bro.
We're gonna pretend
you can't say it like that, because if you do that, I'm releasing it on Tuesday just to make you look dumb. We're recording on a Sunday. Which list do you feel the most passionate about right now?
I don't feel passionate about any of this. I am wholly dispassionate. I am above it all. I am simply a reporter on the ground calling balls and strikes.
Like the Jocko Willink of decks.
No. like I don't know, but not that.
We were talking about it earlier. You're saying this like the apolitical, the above the.
He's like, but he's not like apolitical though. Like
that's the thing is you are not you're not you actually you like one of these decks more than the other.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm slowly realizing it's the perfect analogy.
I don't think it's a good analogy, man. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Which one do you like the most, though?
I've got a soft spot for Ajax Bounce.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So Ajax Bounce is a Ghost Spider, Iron Fist, Dagger, Beast, Hazmat, Ravonna, Renslayer, White Widow, Hawkeye, Green Goblin, Cassandra, Nova Sage, Ajax. What's it like? How recently did the move package make it into here?
I'm not talking about that version of Ajax Bounce, actually.
Classic.
That's Ajax Dagger. Different thing entirely.
Still a bounce
talking
by the way.
It is still Ajax Bounce, but like the beast is like a flex spot for Hobgoblin there.
Okay.
So like it's not exactly a bounce tag. I'm talking about the one with werewolf in it.
All right.
It's in the second tweet.
Yeah. In the second tweet.
Yeah.
All right. We'll find it. All right, here we go. Hood, Rocket Raccoon, Nico Minero, Beast, Hazmat, White Widow, Hawkeye, Cassandra Nova, Werewolf by Night, Viper, Shang-Chi, Ajax.
So, the way I think about this card this deck is people don't understand that Ajax is secretly an anti-Arisham. They don't get it. Here's why it's secretly an anti-Arisham card. It's giant. It's bigger than anything they can play, and if you throw priority, you are not getting Shang-Chi'd. Biggest guy on the board, unshangable. Those are the only interaction pieces they have. You are at worst 50-50 to get Eliath. If they have Eliath and they play it on your Hazmat lane, it is just so hard for them to deal with a guy of that size without actually having their tools to deal with it. Like, this is just a guy, like, the Arishem deck is fundamentally pretty much non-synergistic. It's about big guys playing above the curve, and the best way to invalidate big guys playing above the curve is be like, cool, nice 613, here's my 527. Like, I'm just way bigger than that. None of what you do matters, and you can never win this lane, right? And this deck is, in addition to that, a Cassandra Nova Shang-Chi deck. So not only are you equipped with the two tools that I think every deck needs if they want to be able to beat Arishem, Cass and Shang-Chi, you are also an Ajax deck. And because you're a synergy deck, it's a little bit harder for them to Loki you. Because, you get like my Beast and Falcon. Good luck, dude. That sucks for you. That's ass. Enjoy it. There's just like enough air and synergy in here that it's like, you are one of very few non-Loki decks that I'm actually like, you know what? I'm cool staying into this turn 2 Loki. I'm good with that.
It's also my favorite deck. I don't know. I just love bounce. One thing when I look at this deck, when I look at this tweet, I don't think I'm gonna let that Venomized Ajax pass me again in the shop. I let it go twice, and
I got it immediately. I was the original Ajax believer. I convinced Yo Woody to be an Ajax believer. Like, this is a card. This is a card that I was like,
people were not high on this card when it first came.
Because they were playing it in dog shit. Everyone was like, "Let me play it with US Agent." What the fuck are you doing? Well, just play it with Hazmat. It's a Hazmat card. Get over it.
All right. Well,
it's like if people were playing Gilgamesh with Silver Surfer and then they were like, "Gilgamesh sucks." Like, yeah, dude. Like,
where's Zoo right about now, by the way?
Exactly fine. It is a pure points, no tech deck now because it's a Marvel Boy deck, which means it has to be a Kyera deck, and then Marvel Boy sort of precludes Shadow King. So you're just all points, no tech. You like doing numbers, go do numbers.
Awesome. Well, if you enjoy this podcast, the number one thing you do is leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Video version of this on YouTube at youtube.com/@the_snapshot. Twitter's our brand APG, KMBestMS, and KM streaming in the evenings sometimes, not on hot locations.
That is exactly correct. Thank you so much.
Pushing for that rank 1 season finish.
Not doing that.
Check it out on twitch.tv/
Not a thing that's happening.
rank 1. All right. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next week.